Welcome to the Blue Farmer. Join our growing farm community by subscribing and tell us in the comments your location and local time as you watch this story. Now, David will bring today's story to life.
August 9th, 1968. Tommy Hansen stood in the driveway of the only home he'd ever known, watching his father load his belongings into garbage bags. 16 years old. Being kicked out. Not because he'd done something terrible, not because he was a bad kid, because his father's new wife didn't want him around. "You're old enough to take care of yourself now," his father said, not meeting Tommy's eyes. "Linda and I need our space. Her boys are moving in. There's no room for you." Tommy's mother had died 3 years earlier, cancer. His father remarried 6 months ago. Linda had 2 sons from her first marriage. They were moving into the house. Tommy was moving out. "Where am I supposed to go?" His father shrugged, handed Tommy $200 in cash. "Figure it out. You're 16. That's old enough." No hug, no apology. Just $200 and garbage bags of clothes. Tommy's older brother Mike had left for Vietnam 2 months earlier. Nobody else to turn to. Grandparents were dead. Mom's sister lived in California. Tommy had $200 and nowhere to go. He picked up the bags, started walking, didn't look back, heard the door close behind him. That was it. Childhood over. At 16. Tommy walked to the edge of Decorah, Iowa. Small town, 3,000 people. Everyone knew everyone. By tomorrow, everyone would know Tommy Hansen got kicked out by his dad. He sat on a bench outside the gas station, counted his money again. $200. That was everything, his entire net worth, his entire future. A man approached. Tom Morrison. Owned a dairy farm outside town. Tommy knew him from church. "You okay, son?" "Yes, sir." "You don't look okay. You look like the world just ended." Tommy broke. Started crying. Couldn't help it. "My dad kicked me out. I don't have anywhere to go." Tom sat down beside him. "How old are you?" 16. Just turned 16 last month." "That's too young to be on your own." "Tell that to my dad." Tom was quiet for a moment, then, "I need help on my farm, can't pay much, $60 a week. You can sleep in the barn loft, 3 meals a day. Interested?" Tommy looked at him. "Why would you help me?" "Because I was you once. Different circumstances, same situation. Somebody helped me, I'm passing it on." That's how Tommy Hansen became a farmhand at 16, sleeping in a barn loft, working sunrise to sunset for $60 a week. Tom Morrison ran a small dairy operation. 40 cows, 80 acres of hay and corn, decent living for one family, not much extra. But Tom was kind, treated Tommy like a son, taught him farming. Tommy learned fast, milking cows, operating equipment, fixing things that broke. Within 2 months, Tom trusted him to run the farm alone when Tom went to town. Tommy saved every penny, lived on almost nothing. After 3 months, he had saved $640, still slept in the barn loft, still ate with Tom's family, but he was building something. One Saturday in November, Tommy saw an ad in the Decorah newspaper. 1951 John Deere Modeler tractor. Needs work. $200. Call Henry. Tommy called. Went to look at it. The tractor belonged to Henry Olson, a 76-year-old farmer who'd stopped farming 5 years earlier. The John Deere sat in Henry's machine shed, 17 years old, hadn't run in 5 years, flat tires, seized engine, rust. Paint faded to almost grey, looked hopeless. "Why you want this junk?" Henry asked. "I'm going to fix it." "You know how to fix tractors?" "I'm learning. Mr. Morrison is teaching me." Henry studied Tommy, saw something. "You're that Hansen kid, got kicked out by your dad." "Yes, sir." "That's rough. How old are you?" 16. "And you got $200 to spend on a broken tractor?" "I saved it, working for Mr. Morrison." Henry thought about it. "Tell you what, You can have the tractor for $150. Use the extra 50 for parts. You fix it here in my shed. Take as long as you need. When it runs, you haul it away." Tommy couldn't believe it. Why? Because any kid who gets kicked out at 16 and saves money instead of wasting it deserves a break. And because that tractor deserves to run again. Been sitting too long. Tommy paid $150. Shook Henry's hand. Now he owned a tractor. A broken tractor. But his tractor. He spent every Sunday for the next 4 months working on it. Tom helped sometimes, taught him, lent him tools. But mostly Tommy figured it out himself. Unseized the engine. Soaked the cylinders in penetrating oil for weeks. Slowly worked the pistons free, rebuilt the carburetor, cleaned the fuel system, replaced the magneto, fixed the electrical system, bought used tires at a salvage yard, $38 for all 4, mounted them himself, scraped the rust, primed it, painted it, John Deere green and yellow, $42 for paint. By March 1969, the tractor ran. Not perfect, smoked some, made noise, but it ran. It worked. Tommy was 17 now, had a tractor, had 6 months of farming experience, had $370 left in savings. Tom Morrison pulled him aside. "Tommy, you've got a good work ethic. I want to make you an offer. I'll rent you 20 acres of my land. You can farm it yourself. Pay me after harvest. Use your tractor. Borrow my planter and other equipment. See if you can make it work." "Why would you do that?" "Because you remind me of myself at your age, and because I think you can do it." Tommy rented the 20 acres, planted corn that spring using his John Deere A and Tom's borrowed equipment, worked Tom's farm during the day, worked his own 20 acres early mornings and late evenings. That summer, Tommy worked harder than he'd ever worked. 17 years old. Farming 20 acres while working full-time on Tom's dairy farm, sleeping in a barn loft, living on almost nothing. The corn grew well. Good year, decent rain, no major problems. Harvest came in September. Tommy borrowed Tom's combine. Took him 2 days to harvest 20 acres, yielded 98 bushels per acre, total 1,960 bushels. Corn was selling for $1.40 per bushel. Tommy's gross, $2,744. After rent, seed, and costs, Tommy netted $1,812. At 17, farming 20 acres with a $200 tractor, Tommy had made $1,812 in 1 season. He paid Tom the rent, bought himself a used bed and dresser, moved out of the barn loft into a small room Tom offered in the farmhouse, saved the rest. Tom was proud. "You did it. Most kids your age couldn't do what you just did." "I'm not done yet. I want to do it again. Bigger." 1970, Tommy rented 40 acres, used his John Deere and Tom's equipment, made $3,400. 1971, 60 acres, made $5,800. 1972, 80 acres, made $7,900. Bought a used tractor for $800, now had 2 tractors. By 1973, Tommy was 21. Farming 120 acres rented from 3 different landowners, had accumulated $18,000 in savings. Then opportunity knocked. Tom Morrison's neighbor died. His widow was selling his farm, 160 acres, asking $48,000. Tommy made an offer, $38,000 cash. The widow accepted. Closed in June 73. At 21, Tommy owned 160 acres. Plus, he rented another 160, farming 320 acres total. And it all started with a $200 John Deere Model A that he'd fixed in Henry Olson's shed 5 years earlier. That tractor still sat in Tommy's machine shed. He never sold it. Never would. It represented everything. Where he came from. What he'd overcome, what was possible. By 1980, Tommy owned 400 acres, rented another 400, net worth $680,000. By 1990, owned 700 acres, rented 600. Net worth 1.8 million. By 2000, owned 900 acres, rented 800. Net worth 2.6 million. In 2010, Tommy was 58. Decided to tell his story. A documentary filmmaker heard about him and came to Iowa. The filmmaker asked, "You were kicked out at 16 with $200. Now you're worth over 3 million. How?" Tommy thought carefully. "I bought a broken tractor that nobody wanted, fixed it, used it to farm 20 acres. Made $1,800 the first year. Reinvested everything, never stopped working, never gave up. It took 42 years, but I built this from almost nothing." "What happened to your father? Did you ever reconcile?" Tommy's face showed pain. "He died in 1994. We never reconciled. I tried once in the 80s, went to his house. Linda answered, said he didn't want to see me. I left. Never tried again. He was buried without me there. That hurt. Still does. Do you forgive him?" "I'm working on it. Some days yes, some days no, but I don't let it define me anymore. He made a terrible choice. I made different choices. That's the difference." "And the tractor? The one you bought for $200? "Still have it, still runs. It's in my shed. I start it every month. That tractor saved my life, gave me purpose when I had nothing, taught me that broken things can be fixed. That value isn't in appearance. That determination overcomes obstacles." The documentary aired in 2011, called From $200 to 3 Million Tommy Hansen's Journey. Got over 2 million views. Thousands of people wrote to Tommy, young people saying his story inspired them, parents saying they'd use it to teach their kids about perseverance. Tommy answered every letter, helped several young farmers get started by renting them land at fair prices. In 2015, Tommy was invited to speak at his old high school in Decorah, the school where he'd been a student when he got kicked out 47 years earlier. He brought the John Deere Model A, drove it to the school, parked it out front. 500 students attended the assembly. Tommy told his story, showed pictures from '68, him standing next to the broken tractor, pictures from '69, the restored tractor in the field, pictures from every decade after. Then he took students outside to see the actual tractor. Same John Deere A from '68. Still running, 64 years old, still worked. "This tractor taught me everything," Tommy said. "It taught me that broken things can be fixed, that patience overcomes obstacles, that value isn't in looking good but in working well, that you don't need much to start, just something that works and the determination to use it. This $200 tractor launched a $3 million farm. Never underestimate small beginnings." Standing ovation. Students surrounded the tractor, took pictures, asked questions. Many said it was the most inspiring thing they'd heard in school, but the full story of that tractor and Tommy's journey was even more complex and difficult than he usually shared publicly. The first year, survival and shame. That first year after getting kicked out was brutal beyond what most people understood. August 68 through August 69. Tommy was 16 to 17, living in a barn loft, working for $60 a week, trying not to break. The physical conditions were harsh. Barn loft, no heat, Iowa winters, temperatures below zero. Tommy slept in all his clothes plus 3 blankets Tom gave him. Still woke up freezing, hands so cold he could barely move them some mornings. But worse than the cold was the shame. Everyone in Decorah knew, small town, 3,000 people. Tommy Hansen got kicked out by his dad. The whispers, the looks, the pity. He'd walk into the diner for breakfast sometimes. Conversations would stop. People would stare. Some felt sorry for him. Others judged his father. Nobody knew what to say. Tommy stopped going places, just worked. Farmed during the day, worked on the tractor Sundays, avoided town, avoided people, avoided the shame. The loneliness was crushing. 16-year-old kid, no family, no friends really. Just Tom Morrison, who was kind but 62 and didn't talk much. Some nights Tommy would lie in the barn loft wondering if it was worth it. If he should just leave, hitchhike to Chicago or Minneapolis, start over where nobody knew him. But he stayed, partially because he had nowhere else to go, partially because Tom had given him a chance, partially because quitting felt like proving his father right, that he was worthless. The tractor restoration became Tommy's lifeline, working on something, fixing something, creating value from nothing. It gave him purpose, gave him hope, gave him a future to work toward. When that engine finally turned over in March '69, Tommy didn't just feel pride. He felt redemption. He'd taken something broken and made it work, proved he could do something meaningful. That mattered more than anything. The farming years, building brick by brick, from '69 through '73, Tommy expanded slowly but methodically. Never overextended, never borrowed. Always paid cash. '69, 20 acres, made $1,812. Saved $1,200 after buying furniture. 70, 40 acres, made $3,400, bought nothing except necessities. Saved $3,000. 71, 60 acres, made $5,800, bought used tractor for $800, saved $4,400. 72, 80 acres, made $7,900, saved $7,000. 73, 120 acres rented plus bought 160 acres. Total farming, 280 acres. The expansion looks linear written out, but it wasn't. Every year brought challenges. 70 had a drought. Yields dropped 30%. Tommy made less than projected, barely covered costs, thought about quitting. Didn't. 71 had equipment failures. Tractor broke down during planting. Tommy fixed it himself but lost 3 days. Planted late. Still made decent crop but learned importance of maintenance. 72 had low prices. Corn dropped to $1.10 per bushel. Tommy's income dropped even though yields were good. Learned that markets matter as much as production. Every year taught something. Every challenge made him stronger. Every success built confidence. But Tommy never forgot where he came from, never forgot being 16 with $200 and nowhere to go. That memory drove him, made him work harder, made him appreciate everything. His living expenses stayed minimal. By 71, he'd moved into a room in Tom's farmhouse. Paid Tom $50 monthly for rent and meals. Still cheap. Still saving aggressively, drove the same pickup Tom gave him, 1958 Chevy, ran fine. Why buy newer? Wore work clothes from farm supply store, $22 for overalls, lasted 3 years, bought 3 pairs, rotated them. People who saw Tommy assumed he was struggling. Young farmer barely getting by. Nobody knew he had $18,000 in the bank by age 21. That was fine, let them assume. Tommy didn't need validation. The land purchase. Biggest gamble. When Tom's neighbor died in May '73 and his widow put the farm up for sale, Tommy faced his biggest decision, 160 acres, asking $48,000. Tommy had $18,000 saved. Could he come up with $30,000 more? Should he borrow or let this opportunity pass? Tommy spent 3 weeks thinking, barely slept. This was his chance to become a landowner, real farmer, not just renting, owning. But $30,000 was enormous, more than Tommy had ever conceived of borrowing. What if something went wrong? Bad crop year? Equipment failure? He'd lose everything. Tom Morrison gave advice. Land ownership is security. Rent can be raised or cancelled. Owned land is yours forever. If you can swing it, do it. Tommy decided to offer $38,000. He had $18,000. Would need to borrow $20,000. Went to the bank, First National Bank of Decorah, met with the loan officer, young guy, maybe 30. Looked at Tommy skeptically. You're 21 years old. You want to borrow $20,000 to buy farmland? Yes, sir. What collateral do you have? $18,000 in cash. 2 tractors worth maybe $1,500 total. My labor and determination. The loan officer laughed, not meanly, just skeptical. That's not how loans work. We need assets, property, things we can seize if you don't pay. I'll pay. I've never missed a payment on anything. Ask anyone in town. You're 21. You haven't had time to build credit. Tommy felt it slipping away. Sir, I was kicked out at 16, had $200. In 5 years I've saved $18,000 farming. I'll make this work. I just need a chance. The loan officer was quiet. Then, wait here. He left. Came back with the bank president. Older man. Maybe 60. Looked at Tommy. You're Hanson's kid, the one who got kicked out. Yes, sir. I heard about you. Morrison speaks highly of you. Says you're the hardest worker he's seen. I try, sir. The president studied Tommy. I'll approve the loan. $20,000 at 8% over 10 years. Payment will be $243 monthly. Can you handle that? Tommy did quick math. Farming 280 acres, he should net at least $12,000 annually. 243 monthly was 2,916 yearly. He could handle it if crops were decent. Yes, sir, I can handle it. Don't make me regret this. You won't, sir. Tommy got the loan. Combined with his $18,000, bought the 160 acres for $38,000 cash. The widow accepted. Closed June 15th, 73. At 21, Tommy owned land, his land. Nobody could take it. Nobody could kick him off. His security. First night after closing, Tommy walked the property. 160 acres. His, built from $200 and a broken tractor 5 years earlier. He thought about his father, wondered if he knew, wondered if he cared, decided it didn't matter. Tommy had proved to himself that he could build something. That was enough. The Tom Morrison years. Father figure Tom Morrison became more than employer to Tommy, became mentor, became father figure, became the dad Tommy's own father should have been. Tom taught Tommy everything, not just farming, life. Taught him how to fix equipment instead of replacing it. Parts are expensive. Labor is free if you do it yourself. Learn to fix things. Taught him financial discipline. Save 30% minimum. Live on less than you make. Compound interest is your friend. Debt is your enemy. Taught him patience. Farming is long-term. Quick rich doesn't exist here. Slow and steady wins. Taught him integrity. Your word is your bond. If you say you'll do something, do it. Reputation matters more than money. But more than lessons, Tom gave Tommy something he'd lost. Family. Invited him to Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving, Easter, family gatherings. Treated him like a son. Tom's wife Martha was equally kind. Packed Tommy extra food. Made sure he had warm clothes in winter. Worried about him like a mother would. When Tommy bought his land in 73, Tom and Martha threw him a small celebration. Cake, dinner, congratulations. Tom shook his hand. I'm proud of you, son. Tommy almost cried. Son. Nobody had called him that since his mother died. Hearing it from Tom meant everything. Tom was there for every milestone. When Tommy bought his second farm in 77. When Tommy met his future wife Linda in 79. When they married in 80. When their first child was born in 81. Tom stood as best man at Tommy's wedding. Held Tommy's first child in the hospital, was grandfather to Tommy's kids in every way that mattered. When Tom died in 1996 at age 90, Tommy delivered the eulogy. Broke down crying. Tom Morrison saved my life, took in a scared 16-year-old kid and gave him a chance. Taught him farming, taught him life, became the father I needed when my own father abandoned me. Everything I am, everything I've built, started with Tom's kindness. I'll miss him every day. Tommy inherited Tom's original farm, the 80 acres and dairy operation. Tom's will specified, to Tommy Hanson, who became the son I never had. May this land serve you as well as you served me. Tommy never sold that land, kept it, farmed it, maintained the original farmhouse, eventually gave it to his oldest son. This is where it all started, where Tom Morrison saved me. This land stays in our family forever. The family Tommy built in 1979, Tommy met Linda at church. She was 24, school teacher, grew up on a farm, understood farming life. They married in 80. Linda knew Tommy's story, knew about being kicked out, knew about his estranged family, never judged him, never pressured him, just loved him. First child Thomas Morrison Hanson, named after Tom Morrison, born in 81. Second child Sarah, born in 83. Third child Michael, named after Tommy's brother who'd been killed in Vietnam in 71, born in 86. Tommy was a different kind of father than his own father had been. Present, involved, loving. Took his kids to the field, taught them farming, told them his story so they'd appreciate what they had. When Thomas turned 16 in 97, Tommy took him to the shed, showed him the John Deere Model A. This tractor changed my life. I was 16, just kicked out, had $200, bought this broken tractor, fixed it, used it to start farming. Everything we have came from this. Thomas studied the old tractor. It's important to you. More than I can explain. Someday this will be yours. Maintain it. Keep it running. Pass it to your kids. This tractor represents our family, where we came from, what we overcame. Thomas promised. Still keeps that promise today. The 51 John Deere Model A, now 73 years old, still runs. Thomas maintains it. His kids learn to drive on it. Fourth generation connected to a $200 tractor, but building a family while farming wasn't easy. 70 to 80-hour work weeks in spring and fall, missing some of the kids' school events, working through exhaustion. Linda was patient but firm. The kids need you, Tommy. The farm will be there. They won't always be kids. Tommy learned to balance it better, still worked hard, but made time for family. Coached his son's baseball team, attended his daughter's concerts, present even when exhausted. In 2008, Tommy's oldest daughter, Sarah, got married. At the reception, she gave a speech. My dad was kicked out at 16, lost his family, but he built a new one, better one. He taught us that family isn't just blood, it's who shows up, who cares, who loves you. Dad showed up for us every day. That's family, Tommy cried, hugged his daughter, thought about his own father who'd never shown up for him, felt gratitude that he'd broken that cycle, built something better. The father who never came back. Tommy tried to reconcile with his father once, 1986. Tommy was 34, successful farmer, married, 2 kids, wanted his father to meet his grandchildren, drove to his father's house in Decorah. Hadn't been there since August 68, 18 years earlier. Knocked on the door. Linda answered, his father's wife, now in her 60s, looked at Tommy with surprise. Tommy! Hi, Linda, I'd like to see my father. Why? Because I want to introduce him to his grandchildren, and because I want to try to mend things. Linda's face hardened. Your father doesn't want to see you. Can I ask him myself? No, he made it clear years ago. You're not part of this family. Please leave. Tommy heard his father's voice from inside. Who is it? Linda called back, nobody, wrong house. She closed the door. Tommy stood there for a moment, felt the old wound rip open, walked back to his truck, sat there shaking. Linda found him. I'm sorry that happened. He won't even acknowledge I exist. That's his loss. You've built a good life, beautiful family. He's missing out. That's on him, not you. Tommy never tried again. His father died in 94. Tommy heard about it a week after the funeral. Wasn't invited. Wasn't mentioned in the obituary. Just erased. It still hurt. Decades later, it still hurt. Tommy told his therapist in 2005, I've accomplished everything I set out to do. Own land, have family, built security, but I still feel that 16-year-old kid inside who wants his dad to say he's proud. That never goes away. The therapist said, Some wounds don't fully heal. You learn to live with them, build around them. That's what you've done. Tommy accepted that, built his life around that wound, made sure his own kids never felt abandoned, never felt unwanted. That was his victory over his father's failure. The tractor legacy. The '51 John Deere Model A became famous in farming circles. Stories spread. Magazines wrote articles. People came to see it. Tommy always showed it proudly. This is where it started. $200. Broken. Nobody wanted it. I fixed it, used it, built everything from it. In 2012, John Deere Corporate heard the story, invited Tommy to their headquarters in Moline, Illinois. Asked to feature him and the tractor in their 75th anniversary celebration. Tommy agreed, drove the Model A to Moline, 9-hour trip, tractor running the whole way, 61 years old, still worked. At the celebration, John Deere executives asked Tommy to speak. 500 dealers and farmers attended. Tommy told his story, showed the tractor, explained what it represented. John Deere built this tractor in 1951. Somebody bought it new, farmed with it for 17 years. Then it sat broken for 5 years. In 1968, a 16-year-old kid with $200 bought it. That kid was me. I fixed this tractor, used it to farm 20 acres, made $1,800 the first year. That led to 40 acres, then 80, then buying land, then building a farm worth millions. All from this $200 tractor. That's the power of determination. That's the value of fixing what's broken instead of replacing it. That's what John Deere represents to me. Standing ovation, 3 minutes. Tommy was crying. So was half the audience. After the speech, a John Deere executive approached Tommy. "We'd like to buy that tractor for our museum. Name your price." Tommy shook his head. "It's not for sale. Ever. It stays with my family. We could offer substantial money. You could offer $1 million and I'd say no. This tractor is my legacy. It's how I teach my kids and grandkids where we came from. It's priceless, not for sale." The executive respected that. "I understand. Would you let us make an exact replica for the museum?" "That I'd allow, as long as mine stays mine." John Deere made a replica. Put it in their museum with a plaque. 51 Model A. Represents the tractor Tommy Hansen bought for $200 at age 16 after being kicked out by his father. He restored it and used it to launch a farming career that resulted in a multi-million-dollar operation. Example of determination, resourcefulness, and the American dream. The community impact. Tommy's story inspired hundreds. Young farmers, people facing hardship, anyone who'd been rejected or abandoned. He received thousands of letters over the years, a sampling from Jake, age 18. "My dad kicked me out last month. I felt hopeless until I read your story. Now I know I can survive. Thank you." From Maria, age 26. "I'm a single mom trying to start a farm. Everyone says I can't. Your story proves they're wrong. I won't give up." From Robert, age 62. "I was abandoned as a kid, thought I'd never amount to anything. Your story shows that our beginnings don't determine our endings. Thank you for sharing." Tommy answered every letter, gave advice, offered encouragement, helped when he could. In 2015, Tommy established the Hansen Second Chance Fund. Provided small grants, $500 to $2,000 to young people trying to start farming. No credit check, no collateral, just application showing determination and plan. Over 200 young farmers received grants since 2015. 73% succeeded, built farms, became self-sufficient. Several now help others the way Tommy helped them. Tommy's philosophy: somebody gave me a chance when I had nothing. Tom Morrison changed my life. I'm passing that on. These young farmers just need a start, a small amount of money, a vote of confidence that can change everything. The final chapter. In 2022, Tommy was 70, still farming with his son Thomas, gradually handing over operations. The farm had grown to 1,200 owned acres, another 800 rented, 2,000 total, net worth $5.4 million. But Tommy never forgot the $200 tractor, still kept it, still maintained it, still started it monthly, 71 years old, still ran. A reporter asked in 22, "Why do you keep starting that old tractor?" Tommy smiled. "Because every time I start it, I remember being 16, remember having nothing, remember being kicked out, remember thinking my life was over. Then I fixed this tractor, used it, built everything from it. Starting it reminds me, broken things can be fixed, hopeless situations can be overcome. Small beginnings can lead to extraordinary endings. I never want to forget that." "What's your greatest achievement?" Tommy thought carefully. "Not the money, not the land. My greatest achievement is my family. 3 kids who know they're loved. 7 grandchildren who have security, breaking the cycle of abandonment my father started. That's what I'm most proud of. If you could tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?" "I'd tell him, the next 5 years are going to be brutal. You'll be cold, lonely, scared, but you'll survive. You'll buy a broken tractor for $200. You'll fix it, and that tractor will save your life. Hold on, it gets better, much better." That interview aired nationally, got 4 million views, inspired countless people facing their own hardships. Tommy Hansen's legacy isn't just a successful farm. It's proof that rejection doesn't have to define you, that abandonment isn't the end, that a 16-year-old kid with $200 can build a multi-million-dollar life if he refuses to quit. The tractor sits in his shed, waiting, ready, still running after 73 years, still teaching, kicked out at 16, bought an old tractor for $200. What it became changed everything, not just the tractor, but Tommy himself. He became a farmer, a father, a mentor, an example, a legacy, and it all started with $200 and the determination to fix something broken. That's Tommy Hansen. That's the '51 John Deere Model A. That's what changed everything. The restoration. Every detail mattered. The 4 months Tommy spent restoring the John Deere Model A in Henry Olsen's shed were transformative beyond just fixing a tractor. They were therapy, education, salvation. November 68 through March 69. Every Sunday, dawn to dusk. Tommy would walk the 3 miles from Tom Morrison's farm to Henry's shed, work all day, walk back at dark. Week 1 through 3, assessment and planning. Tommy started by completely cleaning the tractor. Years of dirt, grease, and grime. Took him 3 full Sundays just to clean it enough to see what needed work. Created a notebook. Drew diagrams. Listed every problem. Seized engine. Bad carburetor. Corroded fuel tank. Rotten tires. Rusted sheet metal. Failed electrical system. Broken seat. Missing parts. The list was overwhelming. Tommy almost quit after making it. Seemed impossible, but Henry encouraged him. "One problem at a time, son. You don't eat a whole cow in one bite." Week 4 through 8. Unseizing the engine. This was the critical part. If the engine couldn't be freed, nothing else mattered. Tommy read everything he could find about unseizing engines, asked Tom Morrison, asked mechanics at the implement dealer. The process: remove spark plugs, pour penetrating oil into each cylinder, let it soak for days, work the crankshaft gently back and forth, more oil, more weighting, more gentle pressure. Tommy spent 5 weeks on this, every Sunday adding oil, trying to turn the crank, failing, trying again. His hands blistered from the wrench, his back ached from leaning over the engine. Week 7, breakthrough. The crank moved, just slightly, a fraction of an inch, but it moved. Tommy almost shouted. Henry heard the excitement. "You got it? It moved, just a tiny bit, but it moved. Keep at it, you're close." Week 8, the pistons broke free. The engine turned completely. Tommy cried, 4-year-old kid crying in a shed because he got an engine to turn. But it meant everything. Week 9 through 12, carburetor and fuel system. Tommy pulled the carburetor, completely disassembled it. Every jet, every passage, every gasket. Cleaned everything with carburetor cleaner and compressed air. Bought a rebuild kit for $18, reassembled carefully following diagrams. The fuel tank was corroded inside. Tommy removed it. Bought a product called Pour 15 that sealed rust. Followed directions precisely. 3 coats inside the tank. Let it cure for days. Reinstalled. Replaced all fuel lines with new rubber. $7 at the parts store. Week 13 through 15, electrical system. This was Tommy's weakest area. He knew nothing about electrical. Had to learn from scratch. The magneto was bad. Tommy found a rebuilder in Cedar Rapids who fixed it for $42. Tommy drove his borrowed pickup there and back. 3-hour round trip. Worth it. Replaced all the wiring. Bought wire by the foot and made new harnesses. Learned to solder connections. Burned himself twice. Got better at it. Week 16, tires. Found a salvage yard selling used tractor tires. Drove there. Bought 4 12x28 rear tires for $38 total. Not great condition, but much better than the flat, rotten ones on the tractor. Mounting them was brutal. Tommy had never mounted tractor tires. No tire machine. Did it by hand with pry bars and a sledgehammer. Took him 8 hours to mount all 4, hands blistered and bleeding by the end, but done. Week 17 through 19, paint and finishing. Tommy scraped all the loose rust. Used a wire brush on an angle grinder Tom lent him. Took 2 full Sundays just to prep the metal. Bought primer and John Deere green and yellow paint. $42 total. Applied it carefully. Multiple thin coats. Wet sanded between coats. Final result looked almost factory. Recovered the seat with vinyl fabric. $12. Sewed it himself after watching a upholstery tutorial. Week 20. Final assembly and startup. March 2nd, 69. Tommy put it all together. Filled it with fresh oil, fuel, coolant. Said a prayer. Turned the key. The engine cranked, coughed, smoked, died. Tommy's heart sank. Tried again. More cranking, more coughing. Caught. Ran rough. Smoothed out. Stayed running. Tommy sat on that tractor crying. Engine running. His tractor. Fixed with his hands. Worked. Henry came out. Heard it running. Shook Tommy's hand. You did it, son. Most grown men couldn't do what you just did. You're 17 and you rebuilt a tractor from dead. Be proud. Tommy was proud. First real thing he'd accomplished since getting kicked out. Proved he could do something meaningful. That realization changed him, gave him confidence he'd never had. Total cost of restoration, tractor purchase $150, rebuild kit $18, magneto rebuild $42, electrical wire $9, tires $38, paint and supplies $42, seat fabric $12, miscellaneous $14, grand total $325. Years later, Tommy had that tractor appraised. Current value in restored condition, $12,000. He'd created $11,675 in value through 4 months of Sunday labor. But the real value wasn't financial. It was what the restoration did for Tommy psychologically, gave him purpose, gave him skill, gave him hope. That was priceless. The drought year, 1970. Tommy's second year farming, 70, taught him that agriculture isn't just hard work. It's also luck, weather, and factors beyond control. He'd rented 40 acres from Tom Morrison. Planted all corn, used his restored John Deere A. Everything looked good in May. Then June came with no rain, then July with no rain, then August with barely any rain. Total rainfall, June through August, 2.1 inches. Normal was 11 inches. The corn suffered, leaves curled, stalks stunted, ears small. Tommy walked his field daily, watching it struggle. Felt helpless, couldn't make it rain. Harvest came September. Tommy cut the 40 acres, yielded only 61 bushels per acre. Should have been 90 plus in normal year. Total harvest, 2,440 bushels. At $1.40 per bushel, gross was $3,416. After costs, rent, seed, fertilizer, fuel, Tommy netted only $914, barely above breaking even. He'd worked 6 months for $914, less than $4 per day. Tommy sat in his barn loft that night doing math. If every year was like this, he'd never make it. Would take decades to save enough for land. Thought about quitting, getting a factory job in Waterloo, steady paycheck, benefits, security. Tom Morrison found him. "Rough year?" "Yes, sir." "You thinking about giving up?" Tommy was honest. "Yes, sir. I worked hard. Did everything right, made almost nothing. If farming is this unpredictable, maybe I'm better off doing something else." Tom sat beside him. "Let me tell you about 1936. Worst drought in Iowa history. I was 24. Farming with my dad. We planted 300 acres, got 12 bushels per acre total. Lost money that year, thought about quitting too." "What made you stay?" "My dad told me, bad years teach you, good years pay you. You need both to be a farmer. If you quit when it's hard, you'll never be here when it's good." I stayed. Next year was better. Year after that was great. 40 years later, I own land and make a living. But if I'd quit in 36, I'd have nothing. Tommy absorbed that. "So I should stay?" "Only you can decide, but I will say this. You're 17. You made $900 profit in a drought year. Most farmers lost money this year. You broke even. That's actually impressive. Shows you farm smart. Next year will be better." Tommy decided to stay. Tom was right. Next year was better. The equipment failure, 1971. 71 taught Tommy about equipment maintenance the hard way. He was farming 60 acres, spring planting, using his John Deere A, pulling a borrowed 4-row planter, everything going smooth. Third day of planting, the tractor started knocking. Bad knock, engine knock. Tommy shut it down, checked the oil. Was low, very low, almost empty. Tommy's heart sank. He'd forgotten to check oil before starting that morning. The John Deere A burned a little oil. He knew that. Should have checked. Didn't. The engine had thrown a rod bearing. Major damage. The tractor was dead. Tommy nearly panicked. Planting window was short. Had to get seed in ground. Couldn't afford delays. Couldn't afford major repair. Tom Morrison let him borrow a tractor to finish planting, but Tommy had to repair the John Deere. It was his only tractor. He pulled the engine, disassembled it. The damage was bad, crankshaft scored, bearing destroyed, cylinder wall scratched. Tommy drove to Cedar Rapids, found a machine shop. They could fix it. Needed to grind the crankshaft, re-sleeve one cylinder. New bearings throughout. Cost $340. Tommy had $412 in savings. The repair would take most of it, but he needed the tractor. Paid it. Lesson learned. Maintenance matters. Check oil daily. Don't get complacent. Equipment doesn't forgive neglect. Tommy never forgot oil again. Developed a ritual. Every morning before starting any tractor, check oil, check coolant, check tire pressure. Walk around looking for leaks or damage. 5 minutes daily prevented disasters. That habit served him 50 years. None of his equipment ever failed from neglect again. The meeting, 1979. Tommy met Linda Barnes at Community Bible Church in Decorah, March 4th, 79. He was 27. She was 24. Tommy had been attending church for 2 years, needed community, needed something beyond farming. Church provided that. Linda was new to Decorah, elementary teacher, just hired at the local school. Grew up on a farm in Minnesota, moved to Iowa for the teaching job. They met at coffee hour after service. Linda approached Tommy. "You're Tommy Hansen, right?" "Yes, Mom." I've heard about you. You're the farmer who was kicked out as a teenager and built a successful operation. Tommy was surprised. People talk about that. Small town. People talk about everything, but they speak highly of you. Say you're hard-working and honest. That's kind of them. I'm Linda. I just moved here. Don't know anyone yet. Welcome to Decorah. It's a good town once you get to know people. They talked for 30 minutes, discovered they had a lot in common. Both grew up on farms. Both valued hard work. Both were private people uncomfortable with attention. Tommy asked if she'd like to have coffee sometime. She said yes. Their first date was at the local diner. Wednesday evening. They talked for 3 hours about farming, teaching, life, dreams. Linda asked about his family. Tommy told the truth. My father kicked me out at 16. We haven't spoken since. My mother died when I was 13. My brother was killed in Vietnam. I don't have family in the traditional sense. That must be lonely. It was. But Tom Morrison became my family, and I've built a life. It's enough. Do you want a family someday? Wife? Kids? Tommy was honest. I do, but I'm hesitant. I don't know how to be a good father. I never had a good example. Linda reached across the table, took his hand. You'll be a great father. You've overcome so much. That shows character, shows strength. You won't repeat your father's mistakes. How can you be sure? Because you're aware of them. You're conscious of what went wrong. That awareness prevents repetition. Tommy had never thought of it that way. Maybe she was right. They dated for 8 months. Tommy introduced her to Tom Morrison. Tom approved. She's good for you, Tommy. Don't let her get away. Tommy proposed in November 79. Simple proposal, on his farm, evening. Linda, I love you. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me? She said yes. They married in April 80. Small wedding, 50 people. Tom Morrison stood as best man. Tommy's father wasn't invited, didn't expect him anyway. Starting a family terrified Tommy. What if he failed as a father like his own father had? What if he couldn't provide? What if he abandoned his kids? Linda was patient. You won't fail. You're too aware, too intentional. Trust yourself. Their first child, Thomas Morrison Hanson, was born September 9th, 81. Tommy held his son in the hospital, started crying. Linda asked if he was okay. I'm scared. What if I mess this up? You won't. You'll be there. That's all kids need, someone who shows up. Tommy showed up, every day, for all 3 kids, broke the cycle his father started. That was his greatest achievement. The crisis years, 1980s, farm crisis. The 1980s, farm crisis hit Tommy hard even though he'd been conservative. 83 through 86 were brutal years for agriculture. Land values crashed, crop prices collapsed, interest rates soared, banks failed, farms foreclosed everywhere. Tommy watched neighbors lose everything. Good farmers, hard workers. They'd over-leveraged in the late 70s when land prices were high. When prices collapsed, they couldn't survive. Tommy's situation was better but not safe. He owned 160 acres, bought in 73. Still owed $8,000 on that 10-year loan. Payments were manageable but tight. In 83, corn prices dropped to $2.28 per bushel. From $3.60 in 80, Tommy's income dropped 40% overnight. He was farming 400 acres total, 160 owned, 240 rented. With Linda and 2 kids, living expenses were $12,000 annually. Farming income in 83 was only $21,000. Barely enough. Tommy cut everything, stopped buying equipment, drove trucks until they died, wore clothes until they had holes, ate cheap, no luxuries, survival mode. Linda went back to teaching part-time, made $8,000. That helped. Combined, they had enough. Barely. The stress was crushing. Tommy would lie awake at night doing math. What if next year was worse? What if he couldn't make payments? Would he lose the farm? Would his kids lose their home? Some nights he'd walk his fields at midnight, trying to calm down, trying to think, trying not to panic. Tom Morrison gave advice. You'll make it. You own land, that's security. These renters with huge debt loads, they're the ones in danger. You have foundation. Hold on. Tommy held on. 84 was slightly better. 85 improved. 86 recovered. By 87, crisis was over. Many of Tommy's neighbors didn't survive. Over 40% of farms in his county foreclosed between 83 and 86. Families destroyed, dreams ended, generations of farming finished. Tommy survived because he'd been conservative, owned more than he owed, lived cheap, had working wife, made it through. But it was close, too close. Tommy vowed never again, never get over-leveraged, never assume good times last, always prepare for bad years. That philosophy served him the rest of his career. He weathered every downturn, survived every crisis, because he never forgot how close he came to losing everything in the 80s. The people. Tommy helped over 40 years. Tommy helped dozens of young farmers get started. Some with money, some with land rental, some just with advice. All mattered. Story 1. Jake Peterson, 1992. Jake was 19, trying to start farming. No money, no equipment, no connections. Asked Tommy for help. Tommy rented him 40 acres at below market rate, let him use spare equipment, mentored him. Jake farmed those 40 acres for 3 years, saved money, bought his own equipment, rented more land. By 2000, Jake owned 80 acres and farmed 300. Jake told Tommy in 2010, "You gave me a start when nobody else would. Changed my life. I'm passing it on. Just helped a young farmer the way you helped me." Story 2. Maria Santos, 2003. Maria was 26, single mother, 2 kids, trying to farm. Everyone said she couldn't. Woman, no husband. Too hard. Maria asked Tommy for advice. He listened, gave her encouragement. "Don't listen to people who say you can't. I was told I'd fail at 16, prove them wrong. You can too." Rented her 60 acres. Fair price. Helped her get started. Maria succeeded. Built a 200-acre operation by 2015. Raised her kids on the farm. Proved everyone wrong. She told a reporter, "Tommy Hansen believed in me when nobody else did. Gave me a chance. I'll be forever grateful." Story 3. David Chen, 2009. David was 22, son of immigrants. Family had no farming background. David wanted to farm. Nobody would help. Tommy gave him a grant through his Second Chance Fund, $2,000, enough to buy used equipment and rent 20 acres. David used it wisely. Farmed 20 acres, made money, expanded to 40, then 80. By 2020, David farmed 400 acres. David brought his parents to meet Tommy in 2018. Through a translator, they thanked him. "You gave our son opportunity. Our family will remember." Tommy had tears in his eyes. "Tom Morrison gave me opportunity 60 years ago. I'm just passing it on." These stories multiplied. Over 200 young farmers helped, success rate above 70%. Tommy's legacy wasn't just his farm. It was the farms he helped others build. The tractor's final journey. In 2020, Tommy decided the John Deere Model A should make one last trip, a journey to honor where it came from. He'd bought it in '68 from Henry Olson. Henry had died in '74, but Henry's grandson, Robert Olson, was still alive, living in Decorah. Tommy called him. "Robert, this is Tommy Hansen. I bought a tractor from your grandfather in '68. Would you like to see it?" "The John Deere Model A? I remember that tractor. Grandpa talked about the kid who fixed it. That was you?" "That was me. I've kept it all these years. Still runs. I'd like to bring it by, show you what it became." Robert was touched. "I'd love that. Tommy drove the tractor to Robert's house. 69-year-old man driving a 69-year-old tractor. Neighbors watched, wondered why anyone would drive such an old machine. Robert came out, studied the tractor. It looks brand new. Grandpa would be amazed. Your grandfather saved my life, sold me this for $150 instead of $200. Let me fix it in his shed. Didn't have to do that, but he did. He talked about you before he died, said you were the hardest working kid he'd ever met, said you'd make something of yourself. He was right. Tommy showed Robert pictures. The tractor broken in '68, restored in '69. Farming through the decades, still working today. This tractor launched everything. Farmed 20 acres with it my first year, made enough to expand. Eventually bought land, built a farm, now worth over $5 million. All started with your grandfather's kindness and this $200 tractor. Robert was quiet then. Grandpa would be proud. He believed in helping young people. You proved he was right to believe. They talked for an hour. Tommy thanked Robert for his grandfather's kindness 52 years earlier. Robert thanked Tommy for honoring that kindness by building something meaningful. As Tommy drove the tractor home, he felt closure, full circle. From Henry's shed in '68 to Henry's grandson's house in 2020, the tractor had made its final symbolic journey. The legacy continues. In 2024, Tommy is 72, semi-retired. His son Thomas runs most of the farm. Tommy helps during planting and harvest, otherwise enjoys life. The farm is 1,200 owned acres, 800 rented. Net worth approximately $5.4 million. But numbers don't capture Tommy's real legacy. 3 kids raised with love and security. 7 grandchildren who have opportunities Tommy never had. 40-plus young farmers given starts. Thousands inspired by his story. The John Deere Model A still runs. Thomas maintains it. Starts it monthly, uses it for small jobs, shows it at farm shows and schools. Kids ask, "Why do you keep such an old tractor?" Thomas tells them, "Because this tractor saved my dad's life, saved our family, built everything we have." It reminds us where we came from, what's possible with determination, that broken things can be fixed, that giving up is never the answer. Tommy's story has been told in Farm Journal, Successful Farming, PBS documentaries, NPR radio, books, and countless speeches. His message never changes. I was kicked out at 16 with $200. Everyone thought I'd fail. I bought a broken tractor, fixed it, used it, built a life. If I can do that, anyone facing hardship can overcome. Never give up, never stop working, never forget where you came from. In his den, Tommy keeps 2 photos side by side. Left photo, August 9th, '68. 16-year-old Tommy standing in the driveway with garbage bags, just kicked out. Face shows terror and despair. Right photo, March 2nd, '69. 17-year-old Tommy sitting on the restored John Deere A. Face shows pride and hope. Between those photos is 7 months. But they represent everything, from hopeless to hopeful, from rejected to redeemed, from broken to restored. Tommy looks at those photos often, reminds himself how far he's come, reminds himself what's possible, reminds himself why he helps others, because someone helped him. Tom Morrison gave a scared 16-year-old kid a chance, changed his life. Tommy's spent 60 years passing that on. The tractor still runs, the farm still produces, the legacy still grows. Kicked out at 16, bought an old tractor for $200. What it became changed everything. That's Tommy Hansen. That's the John Deere Model A. That's what happens when determination meets opportunity. That's proof that your beginning doesn't determine your ending. The dealer sold a broken tractor for $200. The kicked-out kid fixed it. The farm grew to millions. The lesson lives forever. Never give up. Even when you're 16 and homeless. Even when you're broken like that tractor. Even when everyone expects you to fail. Because sometimes, often, the broken things become the most valuable. The rejected kids become the greatest successes. The $200 tractors launch $5 million farms. Tommy proved it. The tractor proved it. And everyone who hears the story learns it. That's the legacy. That's the lesson. That's what changed everything.